Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for Recruitment Marketing A to Z, presented by Ian Alexander and Stephen Schwander from Telemetry. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this webinar has been pre-approved for IHR certification credits, one HRCI webcast recertification credit, and one HRCI e-learning credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast to receive your credits. If you're joining us live today, you'll receive an email from HR.com within 1 to 2 business days that will include your certification credit information. You can also log into HR.com and go to your My Certifications page where you can see the credits you've already received and also find out about our recertification program and e-learning webcast pass. If you have any questions today for our presenters or for HR.com, please type them into the Questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel and we'll be sure to follow up with you. Also, just so you know, there's a handout for you. The slides are available as a handout from the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. They are not posted to the site at this time. However, they will be as soon as we're able. And it's my pleasure now to turn you over to Ian Alexander and Stephen Schwander.
Great. Thank you, Sylvie, and welcome everybody. My name is Ian Alexander, and we're here today to talk about recruitment marketing, give you a broad overview of recruitment marketing and some of the key areas that you should understand and should and probably are already doing to some degree or another. A little bit about my background. I've been in marketing for, let's just say, decades. And a good portion of that has been spent in the human capital management space. And my colleague Stephen Schwander, who heads up our client solutions team, has been both a recruiter and recruitment leader on the corporate recruiting side, as well as a consultant at a high level on the recruitment marketing side for Telemetry. So welcome, Stephen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we're going to take turns here and kind of keep it pretty conversational. Please use the console, the GoToMeeting console, to ask your questions whenever they occur to you. We may refer to them as we're talking about these things if it's particularly relevant, but for sure we'll hit questions at the end. So talking about recruitment marketing, let me give you a little bit overview of Telemetry. Telemetry is a recruitment marketing software platform, and we help our clients deal with recruitment marketing strategies, and we enable them, everything from attracting candidates through job distribution to working with candidates and managing potential candidates through CRM and mass email campaigns, all the way through to hosting highly branded, targeted, mobile-enabled career sites. So we spend a lot of time thinking about recruitment marketing, and that's sort of the background with which we bring forth this particular presentation. So to kick it off, let's talk a little bit about where recruitment marketing fits within the HCM space. So if you look at human resources, broadly made up of talent management and talent acquisition. Of course, you have all the components of those particular functions. Up at the upper left, you have recruiting and onboarding, which I am sure many, if not most, of the people that are joining us here today have an applicant tracking system where they deal with the lion's share of their recruiting function. Recruitment marketing sits at the front of that. It's dealing with pre-applicant functions. It's doing the things necessary to get a steady flow of applicants to your jobs and ultimately getting you the best candidates possible. So talked about marketing. Really, the genesis of recruitment marketing is really taking a look at what broad marketers have been doing for years, and particularly within this digital digital world that we live in, broad marketers have learned a lot of lessons over the last decade or more as many tools and technologies have come online to help broad marketers. They developed a lot of techniques and strategies that are particularly effective in this sort of new digital world. And really looking at recruitment marketing is learning a lot of those lessons because there's a lot of parallels between recruiting and broad marketing. So here we have sort of a graph that shows sort of broader marketing focuses and how that relates to recruitment marketing. So on the broader marketing side, you have targeting and segmentation, very important, understanding the demographic qualifications of your prospective clients, the behaviors, the purchasing behaviors, as well as on the recruitment marketing side, targeting, segmentation is very important from the standpoint of job descriptions, job types, what types of candidates you're looking for, same kind of thing. Same thing that happens with brand messaging, right? On the traditional marketing side, you've got sort of your identity, your brand, your positioning, your key messages. Same thing on the recruitment marketing side of things. You've got your brand messaging, your employer brand, and your employer value proposition. And we'll get into these in a little bit more detail as we go through. Broad marketing has channels. How do we get our product or service out in front of people? Things like ads, databases, social networks, emails, etc. Same thing for recruitment marketing, but we're dealing with job boards, social networks, databases, a lot of similarity there. We communicate our messages in a broad number of ways, everything from video to email to contests, things to get our messages out to the world. Same thing with recruitment marketing. Video is very big in that, emails, career fairs, events, etc. Conversion and nurturing. What kind of offers are you putting out to your potential prospect database? As same thing with recruitment marketing, where you have newsletters, educational content, employee stories, those messages that you want to nurture your potential candidates with. And then finally, broader marketing has done a great job of really measuring, adjusting, and optimizing using the available tool sets that are available now. And the same thing is potentially available for the recruiting side of things, really using the analytics that you get as you drive candidates to your career sites or to your job fairs, etc. So there's a lot of similarities there, and that's great because there's a great blueprint out there and lessons learned that recruiters can take from that broader marketing. So if we boil it all down, the key components of recruitment marketing start with influence, and that's your brand, your messaging strategy, right? Then it moves to inbound attraction. That's getting your jobs in front of candidates, whether that's through social networks, job boards, digital ads, etc. Outbound sourcing. That's where you're going out and finding the candidates that are most appropriate and most relevant to your particular key job families and inviting them to apply, keeping them engaged with your organization. Speaking of engagement, another key component of recruitment market is engaging and nurturing. So that's reaching out to potential candidates and sending them emails, messaging that is everything from engaging content, what it's like to work for your company, benefits of working for your company, to reinforcing your brand messaging over time so that when you're ready to hire candidates, they know who you are and you have a relationship with them. Big piece of it as well is conversion and candidate experience. So all the things that you do to take a potential candidate and turn them into an applicant. There's obviously the qualification portion of things. Once you've got your candidates, the vetting process, the understanding who you want to how you want to rank candidates and bring them into your interview process. Retention is a key portion of recruitment marketing because it's much easier to retain employees, obviously, than it is to it's much less expensive to retain employees than it is to go out, find them, and replace them. And then finally, key component as well, measurement, the analysis of what you're doing to get candidates into your sort of candidate community, and what is working, what's not working, from all the way from a program standpoint to a channel source standpoint, and beyond, and using those analytics to then optimize your recruiting processes. One big difference between sort of a recruitment marketing approach and the traditional recruitment approach is traditionally recruitment has been a very transactional kind of process. It's sort of supply chain based, right? So you get a requisition, there is a need, you reach out, you might place ads, react to that particular requisition, and then bring candidates in. It's very focused on the hire. There's sort of winners and losers. You've got people who get the job, people who don't get the job, and then you move on to the next hire, right? So it's very linear, very transaction based. The difference, one of the key differences with modern recruitment marketing is that it's more relationship based, and it's about maximizing every interaction that you have with candidates, because you may not hire them today, but they may be fully qualified to either be hired at another time or for another position. So you really want to keep track of those candidates, focus on qualifications and talent, and sort of maintain that relationship over time, so that when you are ready to hire, you've got a great stable of candidates that you can tap to fill your position. So much less transaction based, much more relationship based, much more focused on the long term than the short term. And just to show you some of the benefits, this is a Burson by Deloitte study that showed that organizations that have sort of a mature talent acquisition strategy using these sort of recruitment marketing techniques are 1.3 times more effective on their business outcomes, 2.6 times more effective on talent acquisition outcomes, 1.7 times more likely to have effective relationships with hiring managers, more successful and more likely to have robust talent pools, and more likely to have effective social media campaigns. So there's tremendous benefits to be had by adopting recruitment marketing in general. And so I sort of broke them down at the beginning. We're going to dive into some key areas here within recruitment marketing, talk a little bit about what they are, some key practices around them, as well as some of the business benefits that you can get out of it. So let's look at employer brand here. So employer brand is defined really by the outside world. So employer brand is something that exists as perceptions by employees, candidates, customers, and others. So you don't create an employer brand. In fact, if you do nothing for employer brand, you will have an employer brand. The art of an employer brand is in amplifying the areas that are good and influencing the areas that may need influence or improvement, as it were. So the broad message there is you really don't create an employer brand. You can't just say this is who we're going to be as an employer. Employer brand is the implied promise that people who interact with your organization get from your organization. It's what you do every day, from recruiters, through recruitment marketers, through hiring managers, your facilities. All those add up to be part of your employer brand. So it's important for you to understand what that is, and some of the ways that you can understand the strengths and weaknesses of your employer brand is really to survey employees and candidates to really find those nuggets of what's really like. You may have an idea of what the best things are about working for your organization, but without truly getting the perceptions of the outside world meaning employee base and candidate base, and even customers to a certain degree, because you need to leverage your corporate brand into your employer brand. You're not going to have a full picture of the potential of what you can amplify within that brand. Part of the process of identifying your employer brand is developing what we call an employer value proposition. And that's sort of a short statement that sums up the key benefits, the things that you've learned surveying your employees and the candidates that access your organization through your career site, et cetera, and taking those and boiling them down into a real concise statement that you can then run it through everything you do from a communication standpoint. That's emails out to candidates. That's certainly your career site. That's the tone and tenor of your job descriptions and your employment ads. Should run through everything. And the good news there is that there's a lot to be gained from that. As you can see, there's a LinkedIn study here that 83% of people surveyed agree that their employer brand has a significant impact on their ability to attract and hire great talent. So, as an example of employer brand, this is a particular campaign that ran at the beginning of the year. General Electric launched a campaign because they realized that people viewed them as an industrial company as opposed to a technology company, and they were having a hard time attracting some of the best engineers to work on their software. So they launched this campaign called "What's the Matter with Owen?" Some of you may have seen it. Ran on national spots on high-profile shows and events, and it really made fun of kind of the perception of GE as a technology, as an industrial company, and it had a sort of a new college grad, smart young man who tells his friends that he's just got a new job working with some of the best technologies, and they absolutely don't understand what he's talking about when he says he got a job with GE. And they're fun. You can look them up on YouTube. But the result of that was kind of GE taking some of the points of their employer brand that maybe were not as obvious, that candidates can work with the best technologies and the newest kinds of things, and they can apply their talents to something that is global and very large and impactful. And they saw an 8 times increase in the number of applicants. So that's just an example of how employer brand and really enhancing and emphasizing the strong parts of your brand can affect your recruiting. Oops. All right. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Stephen. You can talk a little bit about candidate attraction.
Sure, thank you. So as we continue to kind of delve down into the depths of recruitment marketing in general, we're going to switch now and talk a little bit about candidate attraction. Now, Ian mentioned that I've been in the recruiting space for quite a while. It's about 18, 19 years, which means that I started just on the cusp of the internet. So when I came into corporate recruiting, we were still buying newspaper ads, in the New York Times or out in Long Island, and pushing candidates in the greater metro area to join our company. And then we started to see the job boards come online. So we started to advertise online. Well, of course, what would happen is that managers would say, "Well, I don't see my ad in New York Times, therefore my recruiters must not be working on my jobs," right? So you see how far we've come. We want to talk a little bit about candidate attraction, and you notice there's no print ads on this necessarily, right? So candidate attraction is really the act of getting open positions in front of qualified candidates in a compelling way. We were sitting with a client relatively recently talking through all of these different options, and we said, if you're using a recruitment marketing software tool, you can actually determine, which boards are driving the best results, and maybe you want to go into other places besides the big boards you've normally been going into, to which a recruiter said, "Yeah, but if my managers don't see it on XYZ board, they think I'm not working on it," right? So again, here's an opportunity for us to step up to the plate and start talking about a candidate attraction in a much broader way. So how do you want to get it out to job boards are certainly part of that. Social networks are part of that. Pay-per-click digital ads may be part of that. Banner digital ads may be part of that. Certainly events are part of that. And of course, recruitment agencies are another way to get your jobs out in front of the right candidates. So as we continue to talk, we'll begin to see how this works for us. So what is successful candidate attraction? Well, some of you might say, well, duh, it's getting my jobs filled as quickly as possible, right? But how does that happen? Number one, it's easily enabling all your jobs to get out to all the talent attraction channels. And notice how that word "all" is in capitals, because it's not just a single channel anymore. we can't be singularly focused now. We have to have a very wide focus in terms of where our jobs get distributed. So job boards, social channels, referrals, digital ads, campus events, communities. Now, certainly not all channels are right for all jobs, but you have to have a very wide and yet very targeted approach. Secondly, you want to get those jobs out to market quickly, easily, right? You don't want to be waiting 3 days to get an open job out to market. You probably don't want to wait 3 hours to get an open job out to market. So does your software automatically distribute your jobs based on business rules? So, all jobs of one job family may go to a specific job board or set of channels versus a different one. Do you have really simple ad hoc distributions so that your recruiters who know their market better than your marketers probably do can quickly post a job out in an ad hoc way, but also share it in a way that's going to go out to their networks and be able to track that back in. We'll talk about that in a moment. You want a candidate attraction that targets the right candidates with the right jobs at the right time. So again, the first concept is broad, but while you're being broad, you want to be targeted. Right? So you want to make sure that the messaging gets to the right people. You can assign sources based on job and candidate profiles, and you can do full cycle analytics to track and measure the results so that you know that you're targeting the right channels and the right sources.
Right, and I think that you highlighted it, Stephen, as well. But the difference there is, the difference between, I've got automated job distribution. I can send jobs to job boards and very easily one job to multiple job boards. But the recruitment marketing approach, it's much more broadly channel based, so it's beyond just job boards. And it's focused on automating as much of the process as possible. So you don't have a recruiter intervening each time you have to post a job. You can sort of measure and analyze what sources are the best for each job family, and then teach your system how to post that out to those channels by job family automatically. So you don't have recruiters, sort of having to fill in by proxy there.
So some of the key practices to get to that would be, number one, to segment and develop a persona. So when you look at your organization, you're going to have different job families, perhaps, right? Different skill sets, maybe different regions, different facilities. How do the personas of the people who apply for jobs in those job families and in those locations, how do they change, right? What are their what are their online habits? Where do they hang out online? What messages are they likely to respond to? This is all segmenting based on these personas. Then you want to create a compelling ad for each of these personas, and this is where creativity comes in. This can't be automated. You have to be creative and very pointed about this, but then you want to automate the distribution process so you're reaching candidates where they are. So based on those segmented personas, where you believe they hang out, you've got your compelling ad. Now you want to go out and reach them where they are. And to do that, you need a very broad distribution. So as Ian said, it's not a single job to multiple job boards, perhaps. It's far more complex than that. So you go broad with that distribution, but because you've got the personas, you're targeting that broad distribution and you're targeting your messages. And of course you want to include those areas that may not necessarily be digital, right? So your agencies, your events, all of those are accessible digitally, but there are other channels out there as well. So those are some key practices in terms of getting the message out in a way that people are going to respond.
Yeah, and certainly compelling ads don't take the job descriptions that come out of your ATS. You want to really focus your descriptions and ads around what are the outcomes that are expected of this position. What does a day in the life of this position look like? Because two things you're trying to do there. You're trying to make the job interesting and compelling so that you get more candidates to reply to it, but you also don't want to give candidates necessarily a job description with checklist duties, because that's the resume you're going to get and that's the cover letter you're going to get. You really want to sort of appeal to the essence of the job and the outcomes of the job, and you're going to get a much broader and likely more qualified group of respondents there. And then we said a couple times, go broad with your distribution. Well, modern marketing, that's what it's all about, is you go very, very broad. Nobody expects you as a recruiter or as a recruitment marketer or as a marketer in general to really know what all the best channels are for your jobs. You do that by going broad and then reading what you get back and understanding what's working well for particular job families, right? Because you've segmented your and developed your personas, and then focusing more on that and less on the ones that you know aren't working. So,
Yeah,
and
I think another good point on the compelling ads, Ian, too, that if anybody runs a search for jobs, right, you just run a search for a typical job title. And what comes back, I don't care where you're searching on Indeed or just basic Google search, is you'll get a whole list of jobs with that title on. That's the first thing that people see, right? And in today's digital market, they're seeing snippets of that out there in the internet. They're not seeing full ads right away. So even job titles, what are they going to look like when they hit somebody's eye? Are they going to be compelling enough to capture somebody's attention to click on? Right. So even that job title, which is difficult because that stuff comes out of the ATS, but that next level of discipline then is giving those job titles something that's going to be compelling to even get that first click out there.
Right, and just for your note, there's a picture down there is a picture of young Owen telling his parents that he just got a cool new job with GE, and his dad went and got his grandfather's hammer. Because he wanted him to have it as he took his new industrial job with GE, and that's sort of how they poked fun at their particular brand out there in the marketplace.
So when you move beyond just the basic job posting and really develop a wider and deeper candidate attraction strategy, these are the things you're going to drive through your organization. You're going to be able to optimize all of your attraction spend, right? You're going to leverage free channels first. You're going to eliminate vendors that aren't really delivering either on a specific category or by region, and quite often you need to go as detailed as that, right? As granular as that to know, where do I spend my money for what, right? You're only going to spend money or increase spending when it's needed. So you're not just automatically posting everything out. You're not going to push jobs anywhere without some sort of tracking mechanism. Although it's amazing how many times I click on a job ad today and I see no evidence of tracking whatsoever. A lot of times I will see evidence of tracking from the marketing companies that are selling you your job advertising, but I don't see your own tracking. And you want to be able to centralize that cost management, so somebody at the center is really managing where everything is being spent. So the first key business value is optimization of your spend. The second key business value is optimization of recruiter time and resources, right? So you don't have recruiters out there, each and every job trying to get it out to 40 or 50 different places. You're automating that distribution with business rules. You've centralized the job distribution process. We've got clients that, push thousands of jobs into the marketplace every given month, and the recruiters don't touch a single one of them, right? Because it's all centralized and automated. You want to be able to drive results in real time, and you want your recruiters to be able to see that. So, do your recruiters have access to see whether or not there's any traction out in the marketplace, right? And you want to be able to ensure diversity, attraction, and compliance as well. So as you push these things out, if you can automate them, you're really going to have a much more compliant diversity program as well. So these are some key business values, and we're going to take a quick look at measuring some performance so that you can see the types of things that you want to measure when you are putting together a wider and deeper strategy. So what channels and vendors are delivering the most traffic, right? Because that's traffic is marketing, right? There's a good thing there, but then not just traffic, but what about applications? Can you see deep enough to find out, which channels are delivering interviews, right? Because now you're getting higher up the quality chain, and then finally hires. So you might find that some of your media are delivering a lot of traffic and a lot of applications, but no hires, right? So what's important to you in that mix? Which channels and vendors work best for very specific segments, geographies, roles? Can you slice it down to that level in your organization so that you can drive some strategy across each of those areas? How do the free and the low-cost sources measure against the paid sources, right? And, don't just make assumptions, but be able to track that. And I can't tell you how many clients we run across that can't they just can't see those numbers together because they have, they might have a vendor scraping their site for all the free stuff, and then they're just hand delivering the paid stuff, and they can't see the changes. They just can't see the data together. So how's the job performing in real time? Do you get all your reports after the job's closed, or can you jump in real quick and say, hey, I don't have enough traffic here, I've got to make some changes? And then here's a key one. We talked about compelling ads, we talked about compelling job titles. Can you do A/B testing of your messages? So I put out just a basic software developer job title here, but I put out a, hey, go change the world type job title here. Did I really get more clicks with the more interesting one? So these are all of the things that you want to be able to measure in terms of performance in your attraction strategy and with your tool set.
And that's key. Recruitment marketing, as in broader marketing, we've got access to the data now, right? So there's no excuse for not really managing attraction at this level. And I'm just looking at this slide as well, and I see Simply Hired generated a ton of job views, but no application completions and no hires. So I guess we could have seen that one coming, but we need to update that slide.
Exactly. Excellent. So we're going to take a little bit of a change now. We've been talking about attraction, which is getting those jobs out and compelling people to apply for jobs. We're going to change now and talk a little bit about CRM. So what is talent sourcing in CRM? This is more outbound. If you were thinking about a marketing and sales concept here, this is your outbound sales side, right, where people are being more proactive and reaching out. So talent sourcing in CRM is an optimized outbound sourcing that consolidates all of your talent pools into one single talent pool that can be segmented, right? It can be communicated with. And the whole point is to encourage the right candidates to apply for the jobs at the right time. So funny thing is, it's the same goal as your candidate attraction, but in this case you're being even more targeted because you have much more data on the people you're targeting here. So let's break this down just a little bit. First of all, what is the talent pool? It's candidate data, right? It's profile data. It's what back in the day before, when I first started recruiting, our talent pool was boxes of old resumes we used to pick up, right? And we would run through those and make phone calls and put information into our little CRM tool. All that data is digitized now, right? So your talent pool is all of the data that you have, no matter where it sits, right? Sourcing then is searching for candidates and getting them to apply for jobs. So you're going to be sourcing the talent you already have, plus data that might be out there in third-party databases. The next concept is segmentation. So how do you organize that talent pool? I mean, we've got a client that went live using some of their historical data before they started to build new data. They went live with 10 million records. Well, how do you organize that talent into pipelines that make sense? How do you segment so that you're sending the right messages to people based on desired characteristics, skill sets, etc.? And then it's engagement. Now, the number one engagement is around email, right? Some good recruiters still actually make phone calls. I know it. I've heard it, right? Social outreach is another engagement tool. And why do you engage? Well, you engage to educate people, right? Tell them about who you are, what your EVP, what your value proposition is, to influence them to think about you when they're thinking about making a job change, to try to get them to convert either into more deep into your CRM or to actually apply for jobs, right? So these are the segments of talent sourcing in CRM.
Yeah, and just, we wrapped up the last section, but there's a poll that I'd like to throw up here just to get a sense of sort of where the audience here is. So Sylvia, if you can pull up the poll about talent attraction, even though we've moved on to talent sourcing, so we can get a sense of what you guys are using in terms of talent attraction. So if you could just take a moment and fill that in for us as quickly as possible, and we can get a general sense without taking too much time. So flip your screen back to the webinar, quit looking at other stuff, and fill out the poll. looks like we've got about 60% of the people voting, and we're going to close it down just for time here. So last call. Great. So for time, we're going to close this down. Thank you, Sylvie. And always have to kind of get this back up. All right. So, and again, just to reiterate here with talent sourcing and CRM, that talent pool, a large portion of it is past applicants that might be sitting in your ATS, but it's also CSV files that you've got from recruiting, events. It's emails sitting in recruiters' email boxes doing nobody any good. Those resumes, centralizing all those so the whole organization can then share them, the whole recruiting organization.
Excellent. So let's jump into some key sourcing and CRM practices, and the first one is to develop and grow an overall talent pool, right? So theoretically, as recruiters, we all know that past data is important. We talk to a lot of clients that are moving from one ATS to another, and good recruiters don't want to lose all that past ATS data, but they also don't necessarily know what to do with that past ATS data. So the first thing is to develop and grow an overall talent pool that is accessible. It includes all of your past ATS candidates. It includes everything that Ian just talked about, right? Any other way that you get data into the system, you attend a campus or career fair event, and they give you a CSV file, or they give you a dump load of resumes. Getting that data in, your recruiters are out on LinkedIn, and they find people. Instead of leaving them there, bring them into the talent pool so other people can find them, right? So it's really developing that pool and having a strategy that says we want to own our data and we want that data to grow. Then you want to segment it into pipelines. So not all data is the same, right? So you're going to have categories of data that make sense. We've got clients who segment their pipelines into into key skill sets, into key job families, and then they further segment them into how deeply they've engaged with those candidates in the past, and whether they might be likely and ready to be shortlisted, right? So you want to segment your pipeline both by category, but maybe also by level of engagement. You want to aggressively funnel those candidates into specific talent pools, right? You want to put talent networks that are aligned with these pipelines, so that if people don't see a job on your career site that's appropriate to apply for, they can join the appropriate pipeline. Or maybe you want to drive some of your candidate attraction strategies to have people join talent pools rather than actually apply for open jobs, because you're doing some advanced work, right? So that marketing piece is essential to CRM as well. You want to be able to share, we call it internal and external sources. Well, it's all the data you already own, and it's all the data you don't own yet. And you want to be able to share that stuff across all recruiters and sourcers in one big place. You want to be able to engage talent pipelines with relevant content. So, do you have a really simple email strategy and email campaign system that's hooked up to your CRM that allows you to reach out very simply and in an engaging way to your talent pipeline? What happens when they come back to your career site? Do you have compelling landing pages with information that would be relevant for their specific segment, right? You want to make the talent pool the #1 source of your hire, right? So that you create and develop a search-first culture. So rather than always pushing jobs out to the job boards and saying, hey, I know that my best person I haven't even met yet, the reality is that over time in your industry, if you really develop a talent pool, the best candidates for your next position are probably already in your talent pool. So search there first while you're waiting for new applicants to apply, and you're going to push a much quicker time to fill, right? Now, all of this can be done in a way that you standardize your process. You measure everything that your recruiters are doing in that database and against every candidate in the pipeline, and then you can refine your activities and look and try to drive the results that you want to drive. And again, the only way you can do that is by having that single pool, having a process, and then being able to measure it. So these are some of the values that CRM is going to drive into your organization if you get really focused on doing direct sourcing. So first of all, you're going to optimize your recruiting results, right? Everything you expect to, right? You're going to see an increased quality of hire, because when you're focused on CRM, you have a deeper engagement and you're targeting people in a much more proactive approach. You're going to speed up time to hire, so you're going to increase your quality, and you're going to speed up your time to hire because you're building that pipeline ahead of the open job. You're going to improve your brand experience, again, because of the engagement, consistent engagement, consistent message, keeping in front of people all the time. Secondly, you're going to optimize your spend. So, all of the resume databases that you pay for, you're going to build those over time. You're not going to pay 2 and 3 times for the same resume, and you're going to be able to go back to that well and build that. You're going to search and engage past applicants for future roles. What happens when you have 10 people apply to a role, 3 people go through an interview, but there's only 1 opening available? The best of the 3, or maybe the most available of the 3, get hired. The next 2 are really good silver medalists, right? So let's retarget them for future needs. And again, you're going to increase your quality of hire. You're going to speed up your time to hire, and you're going to optimize the spend on that by retargeting past applicants, right? You're going to drive all externally sourced candidates into one pool, and now they can be shared, right? So you're not paying for separate pools, but you've got that efficiency there. So you're going to optimize your results, and you're going to optimize your spend.
We're going to pick up the pace here a little bit as we move on here.
Time recruiter efficiency is another part of the optimization. I think we mentioned that earlier. And then, of course, ensuring compliance, right? So as you are doing direct sourcing, you want to be able to do it in a way that's compliant. So you want to keep that ATS data, which is applicant data, separate from your CRM data, and then you want to be able to make sure that when you do your searching, you're doing your searching in a way that is OFCCP compliant, and that tool or that platform will help you to do that. So again, measuring performance. And just a quick slide to show the types of things you want to measure when you're doing CRM. So how relevant is your pipeline? How strong is it? What kind of status of your candidate pipeline? Is it fresh? Is it aged? How many applicants, interviews are coming out of your sourcing activity and your CRM activity? Are you using your databases to the best of your ability, or are you paying for 30,000 views a month from Monster and only looking at 10,000 a month, right? So you can report on that. What impact are your sourcers having on your pipeline? Can you see a pipeline for every one of your recruiters in terms of how many people are in their pipeline, how many people have applied, how many people have been hired, right? What about all the emails that you send out? Can you see responses on those email campaigns? How are they performing? How many did you send? Did they get opened? Did anybody click on them and take the action, right? Did anybody unsubscribe? Are you having deliverability issues, right? These are all the things that you want to measure when you're doing proactive sourcing using CRM software. Here's that pipeline I mentioned earlier. So, can you see down to an individual job or even at an aggregate team level how many people you're targeting to bring into your pipeline versus how many people have applied and are invited to apply, right, versus how many people are actually sitting in your ATS having applied to that specific job. So can you get this level of detail so that you can drive better results? Candidate journey and conversion, right? So again, not just for applying for jobs, but let's say you're inviting people to join your talent network. Are you getting enough data so that you can actually do smart segmentation? And as you capture that data, are they dropping off, in the process, or are they going all the way through the process, right? So again, just deepening that level of knowledge in terms of your process.
All right, and then with that, let's do a little quick poll on CRM and talent pools and engagement. How many people are actually doing that today?
So many people are building talent pools and engaging proactively?
Yeah. Or do you have a CRM system?
Great.
Are you managing those candidate relationships? Looks like we had about 60% people voted. Flip away from Facebook or Twitter and back to the webinar. And okay, so in the interest of time, let's close that down. Perfect. All right, so let's talk about candidate experience, because all roads lead here, right? This is where you're driving candidates, whether you're inviting them to apply or attracting them through your attraction efforts on social networks or job boards, et cetera. They're all going to end up on your career site looking at your job. So what is candidate experience? It's the quality of the interactions a potential candidate has with a prospective employer, from curiosity all the way through to signed offer letters. So everything from when a candidate says, I wonder if this company has any jobs, or I'm looking at a particular job within this company, all the way through to the signed offer. So that's what makes up candidate experience. It's your employer brand, as we talked about. It's the ads, it's the job descriptions and how you create them and how you write them. It's the career site content and navigation. It's your social network content and integration with your career sites and apply processes and all the various ways you can integrate social networks in. Fun fact, candidates will likely research your company first on your career site. That's the number one. But social networks like LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook are also very close, so you can't lose sight of those. It's the application process. It's however you engage that candidate to have them give you their information. That's a big part of the candidate experience. It's the communications, whether that's an acknowledgement from the ATS, whether those are stage-based emails that go out communicating with the applicant through the application process, all the way through to recruiter interactions. It's the scheduling of an interview. It's the environment of the interview, the offices themselves, the interview room, the hiring managers. Again, the interviews, are the interviews coming off well? Are candidates coming away with a good feeling, pro or con, whether they're hired or not? And then finally, the quality and the communication of the offer. So why does all this matter? Well, one of the big reasons is most of the people who are researching your company and are potentially interested in jobs, you never get to know. And this is a funnel here from one of our clients that kind of takes the career site from the views all the way up to the hires, right? So you see a steep drop off from nearly 1 million views, and then a little bit over 10% of those people actually start an application. 26,000, maybe 25% of those particular application starts ever finish an application, and then finally you hire 617. So if you break that down, you know about 3% of the people that come to your career site and are responding to an ad or are finding you somehow and researching your company. You really only get to know 3%. And to break that down even further, if you look at the number of hires within this particular model, which again is a real world model, only about 0.6% of candidates can you pretty much bank on are happy with the experience they had with you, right? Because you hired them. And then the other 99.04% could be anywhere from frustrated to satisfied with the process that they had. But you'll never know if you're not actively monitoring your candidate experience from the very top end of the funnel. Because if you can change that, 0.06% or the number of hires you get, which might be 10% of the people who come to your career site, if you can change that by just a small percentage point, you get a large increase in the number of candidates per job that you are bringing into the applicant process. So key candidate experience success criteria. Number one, make it mobile, right? Studies show that up to 60-70% of people do browse jobs on their mobile phones, and an increasing number are applying for jobs on the mobile phones. And if you're not making that easy for them, then you're losing out on a huge portion of potential candidates. Again, as we talked about before, in broad marketing and in recruitment marketing, segmentation is key. Really understanding what you have in terms of jobs that are strategic for you, and understanding how that maps to the candidate characteristics that you want for those particular jobs or those segments within your organization. That can help drive things like targeted career sites. So you don't have a one-size-fits-all career site for every single profession within your organization. You're able to create sort of pathways so that you can funnel key potential candidates into an engineering microsite that's focused completely on engineering jobs in your engineering department, or project management, or whatever it is, nursing, sort of those key job families that you might have that are difficult to hire for. You really want to target your career sites and funnel people to very targeted landing pages for those. Taking ownership within HR is a big step, right? So not being reliant on IT resources to sort of get in the queue and take 6 weeks to make a change to the career site. You want to have a system that you can take ownership as an HR department. Making job search prominent and intuitive. The number one thing people are looking for when they come to your career sites is not your great videos in the break room or your employee testimonials or your broad statements about benefits. It's really they want to see the job. So get that job search front and center and make it very intuitive. Same vein, make calls to action simple and obvious. So if you have an apply link that's hidden down at the bottom of a job description, it's probably not as good as having an apply button that's right at the top of the job description that stands out. So any kind of calls to action, make them obvious. Again, we talked about job titles, really making sure that you're not just passing along internally focused job names that may mean nothing to people outside of your particular organization. You really want to do some research to make your job titles relevant to the target candidate. Again, craft realistic and compelling job ads. We touched on that. You want to make sure that not only is your career site indexable by Google, but also that your individual jobs are indexable by Google and that all of them are search engine optimized with the proper keywords, the right URLs that are going to make them rise to the top in the search results. This is huge. Make applications short. You just got to get off of the full application. When someone says, "Hey, I might be interested in this," you don't want to send them into a 5-page application that asks for their high school gym teacher's phone number. Finally, or going down the list, build talent networks that are specific to those segments, those key job families they have. Don't have just one talent network where people can, either give you their resume or indicate an interest in particular kinds of jobs and give you some basic information. Really target it to those key job families. So you do have a nursing talent network, and you do have a project management talent network. You do have a data analyst a talent network. So you're really getting more segmented and targeted with those key job families. Make it modern. Everybody expects a consumer level candidate online experience. So if your company is not providing the same kinds of online candidate experiences as people get when they're shopping for shoes or when they're investigating a service, then it's going to reflect badly on your company and on your employer brand, and you're going to have a harder time converting candidates in those specialized positions. And then finally, as we talked about, same with every other area of recruitment marketing, you want to make it measurable and act on those measurements. So what's the business value there? You're going to convert more candidates that you're paying to drive to your career sites. So we talked about mobile. You can get a 30 to 50% increase in the number of candidates per job by optimizing your candidate experience and application processes towards mobile. Eliminating those long initial registration processes or employment applications, you can see as much as a 70% increase in the number of candidates per job you get. And this is maximizing the dollars that you're already spending. You're getting additional candidates. And you're increasing the applicant quality, because at the end of the day, the first people that are going to bail out of a difficult, high friction kind of online experience are going to be the ones that are already employed and who don't need a job. So you're really effectively screening out a lot of casual candidates that might be your best candidates within the process. Here's some measurement areas for candidate experience. You want to have full source analytics, so you see where candidates have come from. You want to have you want to be measuring the visitor behavior. what devices they're on, what pages they're looking at, how long they're spending on each page, what's your drop-off and conversion rates through the application process. So what percentage of your applicants are actually moving through to the completed applicant stage. And then again, working with A/B testing of a lot of your messages and things like that. You can do that online with the right tools. And here's again some examples of how many candidates viewed a job that came from a search engine, how many started their application, how many completed the application, how many hired. There's a number of different source-based analytics that you can have access to really optimize that candidate experience by channel. We're kind of running out of time here, so I'm going to condense the rest of this down. I want to quickly throw up the poll for the candidate experience to kind of see what people are doing around candidate experience. So Sylvie, if you can throw that poll up. And as we get that poll up, what you're looking at right now is a maturity model that we've developed at Telemetry based on our experience with both clients and prospective clients. And we've really kind of mapped what the capabilities are at several different levels of maturity in terms of recruitment marketing. So it's a great tool that you can use to kind of look at where you are now in terms of what you're doing around recruitment marketing in the various areas, and then kind of benchmark against what sort of the more optimized organizations are doing out there. And we'll make that available to you. It's within the slide deck that you can download now and take a look at in a little bit more detail. But with that, Stephen, let's close down the poll. We got our 61% of the people who voted there. And let's take a look at the poll results. Yeah, well, we have a fair amount of people doing it and a fair people not doing it. But because we are running out of time here, I'm just going to advance here to the end and really point out a couple of things. First of all, thank you for joining us. Second of all, Telemetry is a great place for you to go, telemetry.com, to get some more resources around this. We have a recruitment marketing handbook at telemetry.com, which really goes into great depth about stuff we've just touched about on here. So if you go to our resources section within telemetry.com, you can download a recruitment marketing handbook. You can certainly reach out to Stephen or I if you have any questions. In the meantime, there is a survey that is coming up at the end of the presentation here. We ask that you stick around and complete that survey because it's very helpful for us and to the people at hr.com. We've really enjoyed presenting this, and we will follow up with some additional information as well. I'm going to quickly check the questions here as we get towards the end. Don't you think phone calls are still relevant, Stephen?
Yeah, exactly. So I did throw an answer out there. I don't know if it came in, but I think it's an important thing. Not only do I think they're relevant, I think they're most effective. I'm an old school recruiter at heart. I think a good CRM tool is going to allow you to do two things in that respect. Is to put together a workflow that makes sense for both higher volume, more automated processes, as well as higher touch processes as well, so that you're capturing that activity each step of the way and capturing notes from those phone calls as well, so that not just the person making the phone call benefits from that information, but the whole team does.
Yeah, and really, if I can say anything about recruitment marketing, in the same way that phone calls, yes, are still relevant as a part of the overall mix, but if you kind of picked up, the value here is not just doing pieces and parts of this. Like, should we do phone calls or should we do emails? You should do all of the above. Recruitment marketing allows you to maximize each one of those interactions. So whether you are sending out email campaigns or you're placing job ads or social network ads or you're driving people to your career sites, they're all ending up in your centralized talent pool. So over time, you're building your own proprietary resource that every activity you do helps grow that resource, and it becomes your main method of hiring, and it allows you to reduce your costs and optimize your hiring and really thrive in what today is a really sort of challenging recruiting environment, because most people are employed right now. And so getting talent is really learning how to maximize every interaction and understand that even though that person may be employed, there's still a valid and valuable potential applicant and candidate for you to fill your job. So I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions here. We're running out of time. So I just want to encourage, we will follow up individually with those of you who ask questions offline, and want to thank you again for joining us. Thank HR.com for co-sponsoring this, and make it a great day.
And thank you so much to Telemetry for presenting this very informative webcast today, and Ian Alexander and Stephen Schwander for presenting. Just a reminder to the attendees, if you attended the live webcast, you'll receive an email from HR.com with your certification credit information within 1 to 2 business days. And if you're watching this from our archives, then your credit information will be placed in your account when you click on the little button at the very end that says Redeem Your Credit. We value your feedback, so please take a moment to fill out the final evaluation survey that will pop up on your screen once the webcast has concluded. And this is the end for today. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.